So,
All
how
right,
you
Neil.
doing? How you doing? You're
How are
right,
you
mate.
doing?
Yeah, good. So we've
Yeah,
been
how are you
trying.
doing?
I'm all right. We've been trying to do this for ages now. We kind of we keep missing. So anybody who's like kind of watching this is like a bit of
Yeah,
a joint Dean Neil Stroke Health Fitness collab. So
yeah.
it's probably going to look a bit amateur time initially, but we from Rome wasn't built in a day.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly, mate.
good to see you anyway, although I can't quite. You might need to move a bit to your left or move your phone a bit more to. I've only got off,
If I
yeah.
move over, maybe. Is
Yeah,
that
you
better?
sit on the gear stick.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's
um,
fine.
yeah. So, how are you doing? Fitting well and all that
Yeah,
post
yeah,
stroke?
I'm good. Yeah, so yeah, post stroke, everything's been going well. Um, Again, I've had to deal with like yourself, I've had to deal with the frustration and coming to
Yeah,
terms with things and acceptance.
yeah,
Which is a big one that we seem to find with stroke that you've experienced as well.
yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like now I've finally got to the end of the road. I don't have to deal with that fear, that anxiety, and that worry as much anymore.
When did you have
As they
your?
say, time's a great healer.
When did you have your?
Sorry, go for it.
Remind me. Remind us when you had your the big S.
So yeah, it was about 8 years ago now, and I was literally just in the gym. I was literally just doing a plank. I
Yeah,
was on my second session of the day. Just a normal gym session, really. Like
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah,
obviously into your fitness. I'm into my fitness, and this is how we've kind of got together. And I was just doing my plank, and then next thing you know, I couldn't speak. I've gone from being in a plank to getting up to my vision going a little bit hazy, and then suddenly go to speak, and nothing comes out, and you
yeah,
kind of like a bit hopeless. You just sat there like wondering what's going on, and I was lucky enough to be in an environment where there's a lot of people, so I managed to get treatment quite quickly, and
yeah.
I think that's very important. And then, and the next thing you know, I couldn't talk, write, read, or speak. From going from a plank to that is, yeah,
Yeah, that
um,
was an
it
intense
was quite,
plank.
it was quite a shock.
And how old were you
Yeah,
at the
it
time?
wasn't even an intense plank. That's the thing.
It was just a regular. Well, they're dangerous these planks. I mean, these. Who would have thought it? But no, I mean,
Yeah, well,
go on. Sorry, mate.
yeah, well, obviously, I like yourself. I went on to do a PT qualification to find out a little bit more about the body. And obviously, now if you do a plank, like probably when I was a bit younger, I used to hold my breath, and you know,
Yeah,
that can, it can shunt something the other side if you have got a clot in your system. And
yeah,
now I know, and I teach my clients now that you've got to breathe when you're doing these isometric exercises where you're holding things, because
yeah,
you never know what you could be doing
yeah.
internally.
No,
You're
absolutely.
building up a lot of pressure,
Yeah, and again,
and go on, yeah,
well, I was going to say, I mean, because I mean, there's so much to talk about. So I mean, I mean, the plan really is that we'll do a few of these and lots of these, and they'll be a bit more specific about specific things. But certainly, like as a good
100%.
background. But like, I mean, when I had so my stroke was, I mean, similar to yours, and we've only kind of briefly touched on yours, and I'm sure we'll kind of cover that more. But
Yeah,
mine was after
yeah, no worries.
a gym class, a hit class, and. Yeah, I mean, I came back from it, and it was just a regular evening, and I kind of was sitting on the settee, talking to my wife, saying, well, I wasn't saying anything because I couldn't actually speak, but the plan was to speak to her and say, is it time to go to bed? And I kind of went to talk to her,
Yeah,
and like a goldfish, nothing came out. So I mean, that was very similar to you in some
crazy.
kind of we lost that ability to talk. Um, and I always think,
Yeah,
I mean, you had yours in the gym, so there were people around you. I had it at home, but with people, well, my wife around me. But if I sometimes think, if you've been like, I'm in the middle of nowhere on a walk or something, or in your car, and you can't then ring anyone open, I mean, or then kind of even gesticulate a
yeah,
stranger, like what the heck, you know
yeah,
what I mean? It'd be kind of quite a scary. Well, more than quite scared.
Yeah,
He was in a horrendous, time. So yeah, he
yeah, and this goes back to that element where treatment is key.
yeah.
I was lucky enough to only be 10, 15 minutes from the hospital. So that stood me in good stead. And for you, I'm not sure what your circumstance was with that. Were you close to the hospital or were you quite far
Well, I
away?
mean, yeah. I mean, how did you get there? Did you go in? Did the ambulance come, or did someone kind of drive you there?
Yeah, the ambulance come. I had my friend Rob. He rang, and yeah, obviously I didn't really know what was going on at the time, but he managed to ring, and obviously the ambulance came very quickly. But
Yeah,
even then, at the time, they didn't know what it was.
really.
Um,
They couldn't
you know,
recognise it.
yeah.
Couldn't
No,
recognise it.
well, the only thing, like, my face had dropped slightly, apparently, but obviously I didn't feel that. I just felt
No.
normal. Like, in my
Yeah.
brain, I know everything that's going on, I know who's there, I know. And that's the weird thing with stroke, because I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but you know what's going on, you know who's there,
Oh
but you
yeah.
just can't communicate.
Articulate
And
it. No,
it's
you
such a
can't. Yeah.
weird circumstance. So going back to yours, was yours, so yeah, how long was it before you got the treatment that you needed?
Well, so I think it was about at 10 o'clock in the evening. So my
Yeah.
stroke was 2018, so 7 years ago. So
Okay.
similar time to you.
Yeah.
And I was 44, I think, at the time. So 52,
Yeah.
52 now. Uh,
Yeah.
Crikey, am I 52? You can't. Where does time go?
Time goes quick.
Time goes quick when you're enjoying yourself. So yeah, I mean, um, so we call the ambulance, or I didn't call the ambulance, my wife called the ambulance, and
Mhm.
she kind of on the phone, so I'm laying there, kind of conscious of everything. I'm not in any pain, but I'm kind of
Same as
freaking
me.
out a little bit, like kind of panicking, sweating a bit, and I kind of
Yeah,
I
cool.
elevated my feet, to stop myself.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah.
So I did all that, and then so my wife was on the phone and to the ambulance to 999, and she said, I think he's having a stroke. So she'd recognised kind of
Yeah.
the symptoms,
Simple.
if you like. But I don't think I did.
So
Um,
what was those symptoms?
well, the
Did she
symptoms were
say?
that I just couldn't speak, so I'd lost the ability
Oh,
to talk. So it was
so did your
literally
face
like,
drop or anything or?
well, it did, but only, I mean, subtly. I don't think anyone had realised. But the reason I know it had dropped is because when I went into the hospital and they kind of
Hmm.
prodded you, and there's a million doctors kind of with
Yeah.
notepads kind of stood around you looking at you, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Are they doing the
Yeah, they're doing
finger
all that kind
test?
of stuff,
Yeah.
yeah. But then what they did as well, and it was like late at night, and of course, I mean, I was fine compass mentis,
Hmm.
so I thought, but obviously a little bit confused and like, what the hell's going on, kind of thing. Because
Yeah, of
like
course.
2 hours earlier, I was, kind of in a HIT class, and then 2 hours later, I'm like on a
In
hospital
hospital.
bed, kind of thing. So yeah, it was all a bit of a shock,
Crazy.
of course. But what they did do was, so there's all these kind of, in my memory, whether this was the case or not, but
Yeah.
I've got three or four, five medical professionals kind of stood around my bed
Yeah.
with pads. Whether I've imagined that, I don't know. But that's how, in my recollection of it, is. And then this nurse came along, and she got like a bizarre random collection of food and drink, and I thought,
Right.
I'm not hungry, but yeah, we'll give it a whirl. So she got I remember she got some yogurt,
Yeah.
and she got some water, like a little glass of water, and a biscuit or a cracker type thing.
Yeah.
So so I thought it's a bit random, but she gave it me, and I'm like, and then as I'm eating it or drinking it,
Was it dribbling?
it was dribbling, yeah, and I thought, oh,
Right.
yeah. So there you go. So that was kind of the, that was the proof, if you like, that
Yeah.
subsequently that I realised that my face must have dropped. And then I remember looking in the mirror in the hospital. When I kind of came around the next few days,
Yeah.
and a little bit more up and about and whatever. And I was looking in the, you eventually go and get yourself washed in the shower room or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go in
Yeah.
there and you lock the door and you think, oh God, that feels better. And I remember
Yeah.
looking
Yeah.
in the mirror thinking, well, I hope my face hasn't dropped. And it had dropped a little. It had dropped a
Right.
little bit. But
Yeah.
I don't know whether, I mean, I've got this beard, as you can see. I mean, whether that kind of hides it a little bit. But I think if you look at me, there's maybe a slight drop on my, very, very subtle. I don't think you'd notice, but maybe I kind of,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe kind of, it rightens itself over time. I don't know.
No, no, I honestly had a very similar circumstance. I felt like I didn't know at the time, but apparently my face had dropped.
Right.
I didn't feel like it had dropped, but just going back a couple of steps here, like before I actually had the stroke, and I don't know if this is similar for the people watching stroke health and fitness video, that I actually had a little bit of twitching on the top
Okay.
of my lip, which I never thought anything of it until I actually sort of recovered, and I was like, I wonder what if that twitching was a subtle sign that I
Yeah.
was about to have something that
Well, that
was
was
quite.
before. That was before then, was it?
Yeah, this was quite. This was before then, but I'd never thought anything of it. I just thought, a little bit twitching. Could be anxiety, anything about being in the gym, or not that I get anxiety about being in the gym, but it could have been based off anything. Could have been a coffee. It could have. There was no. But then I think back to it, I was like, there was no real reason. I'd
Yeah.
never had that before. But just going back to the face dropping, I'd had like I'd been told that my face had dropped slightly, but I never felt like it had. But even then, like after the stroke had happened, I went out for a few drinks, and I started to get a little bit of anxiety from the fact that I felt like my lip had dropped, and I felt like, oh, maybe I don't look the same. So it
Yeah.
created an anxiety and a fear of, am I that same person? Is this even me? Do I recognize who I am anymore? But
Sure.
you learn to deal with it over time. But again, I don't think now you can really see, so I don't really get any sort of anxiety with it,
Yeah.
or I don't see anywhere. But
Yeah. I
obviously,
can't, I mean, I can't see anything. You all kind of,
yeah, I
you're
hope
all
so.
symmetrical. No,
That
you're all
gives me some
symmetrical. There's nothing
reassurance.
obvious.
Yeah,
Anyway.
nothing too obvious, and I feel like you know it was a long time ago now, but let's just go on to talk about like a couple of the signs, sorry, the symptoms after the stroke. Like, how did it make you feel after, and how, and the impact of others, like your wife having to see that? Was there,
Well,
how did
I mean,
she feel about things and family?
I was kind of quite lucky because, I mean, I remember when I was in the hospital and,
Mm.
and I was like, you know, a relatively young guy, not as young
Yep.
as you when you had your stroke, but on
Mm.
my ward, it was a stroke ward at Sheffield Royal Hampshire, and on my
Yep.
ward there was 4 beds, and I was one of four, and kind of the guy that he was George, he was about 80, there was I don't know Reginald, he was 90 odd, and there
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
poor old whatever his face was, and I don't even think he saw the night, and they'd all had strokes, you see.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like,
The youngest in there,
I was the youngest in there by
same as me.
like half the age, pretty much, really, and and these guys were in a bad way. I mean, they were in a bad way probably before they had the stroke, and the stroke kind of and particularly for the poor guy opposite, because he was there, and the next morning he wasn't there, and I said, what happened to the
Mm.
next morning? What happened to? Well,
Yeah.
I'm afraid he's no longer with us, kind of thing. Um, and I remember
But
saying to the neurologist when she came around, I'm saying, I feel like, are you sure I've had stroke, and are you sure
yeah.
it's like a mini stroke or whatever? Because I feel like I'm
Yeah,
getting
that's what they
older.
all. Yeah, I had the same thing. They were like, "Oh, is it a TIA? Is it not?" And I'm like, so just going back to talk about that. So my stroke, actually, I had a left cerebral artery stroke, and my they were questioning it because my symptoms like was both the same side, which
Yeah.
obviously when you have a stroke, it's normally the opposites.
Mm.
So it's normally left brain, right arm. But my symptoms were left brain, left arm. So that's why my scan got took to a panel of judges. Sorry, neurologists, not judges, but neurologists, and they said like, look, we think, there was like 10 neurologists, and they lined it up, and they went stroke or not stroke, and then they all pretty much said stroke. So that
Yeah.
was kind of the clarification that I'd had it, but they still couldn't work out the symptoms of why I was getting the weak arm all on one side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I say, I've recovered from that now. I don't get any other symptoms. Do you get any symptoms now at all? Or
No, no. I mean, well, I mean, going back to in the neurologist, and I said I feel a bit of a fraud. She says, no, well, you're not. You've had a full
mm,
blown stroke. It's not a TIA, whatever. But so I said to her, well, why am I like in a better condition, if you
yeah,
like, than poor old so and so over there who didn't make it for the night, or these guys. Well, she said, well, you're younger, but also
Yeah.
you're fit and
Yeah.
fitter. So I mean, I'm hardly kind of David Goggins for anyone that might know who David Goggins is. I'm hardly
Yeah.
that kind of
We'll
level.
talk about
We'll
that.
talk about him on a future. We'll get
Yeah.
him on, yeah, because I think he's had a PFO, isn't he? It's that guy.
Yeah. So just going back to our experience as well. So me and Neil both had a PF4. This is how we sort of met each other. We both had a PF4. We both went on to be personal trainers, which obviously is kind of, it's such a minority for someone that's had a stroke to then be a personal trainer, to have a PFO, and then still be into fitness after. And this
Yeah.
is why me and Neil connected, and we thought this would be a really good idea to jump on here and talk about some of the symptoms that we incurred. Like, obviously, Neil here has had his PFO closed, and I haven't. So it was
No.
just a good thing for us to get together and talk about
Well,
some of it.
that'll definitely be another specific episode.
Yeah, definitely. We'll
Because
have
I
to get
mean,
onto it.
so I mean, again, we kind of, for anyone hopefully that's watching, because that's the whole idea is that people will watch these and kind of be inspired and kind of, given confidence and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we will definitely have a more specific kind of chat about, kind of PFO and the pros and the cons. I've had it, and there's definitely cons. You've
yeah,
had it, and I probably we should kind of leave the exciting bit for another episode on PFO. I
yeah,
mean,
hundred
today's sort
percent.
of like of a general kind of a, hopefully it kind of. Well, I mean, we had a few technical issues because we've been talking about doing this for a month or two, and we're like kind of.
Yeah,
But we hopefully this works and everything will be
I'm sure it
all
will.
all good. But no, I mean, well, in answer to your question, have I had any kind of no? So I left hospital
Yeah,
after about 2 or 3 days, and I remember the first week afterwards being like kind of because everyone talks about fatigue. Well, I really suffered in the first week,
yeah.
but I'm all right. But I've not suffered from it after that first week.
Really,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's really good. That's
yeah,
a
never
really
really
good
suffered.
sign.
And I don't know. I mean, I think a lot. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a neurologist, but I've had a stroke, so I've kind of, I can speak with some authority and confidence. But
Yeah,
I think I probably could. I think you could. Some people genuinely, definitely have fatigue. No two ways about it.
hundred
But I
percent.
think I could have perhaps suffered from that if I just kind of, because I always get more tired the less I do. So the more I do, so as soon as I could get back to the gym, I'm back in the
Yeah,
gym. So the gym makes you tired, but in a good way, not in a
yeah,
fatigue way. So
yeah,
there are probably things that we, stroke survivors can do to
yeah,
prevent fatigue. As I say,
yeah,
I'm not a doctor, so don't take my word for it. But from my
yeah.
experience, I think the best thing to do is kind of just where possible, try and get back into things, and that might actually lift your energy levels. So that's what I found certainly.
Yeah, and I also found, I think that's a really good point. Like, I think your diet as well is a
Oh
big
yeah,
part of
absolutely,
a
yeah,
big part of, like, obviously fish is like known as being a brain food. And I think diet is key as well. I just feel that, again, another thing for me was the brain training games.
oh
So
yeah,
for
yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
for me, I had Lumosity, and I think that was probably one of the best things I did. If you could mix that with the fitness element, so like you, Neil, I was back in the gym after a week just to get the blood flowing, just to
Yeah.
feel a sense of normality again, and to deal with the fear of being in that position in that gym next to the cable machine having a stroke. So it was again dealing with the anxiety of that, but also being able to, train my brain again, because obviously it develops new pathways when you have a stroke. So I
Yeah,
had to sort of like readapt, but you're sort of like you're just doing it for the feel good factor once it's happened, really,
yeah, no,
especially in
definitely.
those early stages.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean now, yeah, I mean well, because we will talk about PFO. So after the stroke, I was fine, and I was taking, within 2 weeks. So I mean, fine physically. Also, I thought, but I still got a hole in my heart.
Yeah, yeah,
Mentally, you're kind of freaking out a little bit because every time you go to sleep. So I mean, I still do it to this day. Like I'll go to 7, 8 years later, I'll still go to bed, and I'll still kind of like wake up and talk to myself just to
Yeah.
prove that I can talk because I've lost her.
I'm going to ask you a question. Do you do this where you're like, almost like, am I good today?
Yeah, something
Kind
like
of
that.
thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
A little bit.
I do some things in the middle of the night, but I can't remember what I say. And my wife will sometimes like, what's going on
What
here?
you on about?
You
Yeah.
nutter. And I'm just like, I'm just testing that I'm not having a stroke.
Yeah. And
But I do it.
obviously now, all these years later, you've been to the Lake District at the weekend. I seen you
Well, yeah, I mean,
smashing
yeah.
15 miles out. Fair
Yeah.
play to
So,
you.
so we kind of, but I mean, yesterday I struggled because because I'm quite fit, but I'm
Yeah.
also quite, well, in my head I'm quite fit, and I've always, I've worked out,
Yeah.
6 days a week for as long as I can remember, kind of thing. But
Amazing.
yes, but this weekend I went to the Lake District with three other guys, and two of which are like, they're not, I won't say they're fit as me, but they're not maybe as strong as me, if you like. But
Yes.
they're like 10, 11 stone. They're
Yeah.
like kind of mountain goat kind of guy. So I was struggling to carry, and they were a lot faster up, a lot faster down.
Yeah.
Um, but I must admit, because of the PFO, and again we'll kind of talk about the
Yeah.
specific
We'll just touch on it.
touch on it, yeah. But I mean, it's given me the operation. I
Mm.
think has given me, well, certainly I've now got atrial fibrillation, which I
Yeah.
didn't
You were
have
saying
before,
that.
and I used to have a loop recorder, and I never picked it up before. So I'm pretty much convinced that the PFO closure operation actually, and it is a side effect, albeit a very small one, a very small percentage, is
Yeah.
actually giving me atrial fibrillation. So that is really frustrating because the whole idea with the PFO operation was that he got me off the medication, but
Yeah.
as a result of it, I'm still on the medication. So I don't have a hole in my heart, but I've
Yeah.
got an arrhythmia, which in theory can give me another stroke. But the other
Yeah.
problem with arrhythmia is it also affects you or affects people when it comes to exercise tolerance. So,
Yeah.
on things like in the gym, you can kind of work within your own parameters, but there's no way I could ever do any kind of contact sport, any more physical, like a sport, or I wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do a race with other people because, well, I would, but it'd be frustrating because wouldn't be able to get anywhere near anybody. So that kind of burst of that energy is instantly kind of like you run out of air, oxygen.
So it's sort of the high intensity stuff,
Yeah. So
like stuff you could do before,
oh
like you
yeah,
say, you was in
absolutely.
the
Yeah,
hit
smash it.
class.
Yeah, and like yesterday when I was this weekend when I was kind of walking up kind of peaks like that, and
Yeah.
my two mates are kind of like miles ahead of me, and yeah, they are kind of 4 or 5 stone lighter than what I am, but
Yeah.
I couldn't catch up with them because one of the reasons, yeah, they're 4 or 5 stone lighter and they're fit guys as well,
Yeah.
but
Of course.
more of a factor I think is my heart. The AFib was kind of kicking in,
Yeah.
that kind of like explosion. And I always think the analogy is with AFib is it's a bit like when you're going down the motorway in fifth gear and you
Right.
accidentally kind of knock your knee into the gear stick and go into third gear and it's like that, it kind of
Yeah.
slows
So it's like, yeah,
you
and
like that. So
engines
you
good
kind of
revving.
exactly. So you're kind of motoring and all of a sudden it's like something's holding you back. So it's frustrating. It
Right.
really is frustrating. But
So what was the main symptom that you felt you had when you had the stroke? Because obviously you couldn't, you just gone there, you didn't say you could feel that your face had dropped. So how did you know that you were having a stroke?
well,
Or did you not know?
I didn't. It was kind of I ain't got a clue. So when I first realised that I couldn't speak
Yeah.
because I'm trying to tell my wife she'll go to bed and then she's kind of so
Mm.
she'd not noticed. And I got up, I walked around the room, thought. I mean, my initial thought was I've got something stuck in my throat, like
Oh, was it? Right.
I thought initially, and I laid down and I tried to speak again, and she's now looking at me, and she's now thinking initially, stop messing about, Neil. Well, I wasn't messing about, obviously, and then she realised pretty quickly that I wasn't messing about, and then she rang the ambulance up, and she said he's having a stroke, and it was only at that point that I thought,
Wow.
I mean, if you can swear, shit, yeah, I'm having a stroke, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then that, in a
Yeah.
way, then in a way, my anxiety went from pretty anxious to kind of, oh my god, I'm having a stroke.
Over the top. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, so eventually the ambulance turns up, and these two kind of ambulance guys come in, and I think they realised that I was all right. I wasn't going to do anything, but they seem to. I'm like, they were like faffing around for. I remember being on the phone to the to various hospitals. Should we bring him here? When should we take him? Kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm like thinking, well, surely, I mean, because you remember the adverts fast, don't you? So
Yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
and these two ambulance drivers are kind of like, commenting on the. Oh, that's a nice picture of there. I think I need to.
Yeah.
You need to make
It's
it
almost
easy for
it's
the.
almost like a distraction method, isn't it? They're almost
Yeah,
like
they know what they're
distraction.
doing. They know what they're doing. And in fairness, so anyway, we get to the hospital, and yeah, I couldn't speak for. Well, I couldn't speak when I got there, but
Crazy.
as I'm kind of like laying in the back of the ambulance, I'm trying to talk, and
Yeah.
he did sit like, well, it was a bit like, yeah, I'm looking at things, and then when eventually I was in the hospital bed and they put the kind of the curtains around me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
of course the lights are on and everything, so you don't sleep, but all through the night, I was kind of like looking at things like and trying to say what it is, so
Oh,
like
was you?
yeah,
Right. Okay, that's
went
a good way.
night and then window. So
Yeah.
and then the next morning I woke up. I don't think I had much sleep, of course. But the next
No.
morning in the hospital, I woke up and kind of the curtains were opened by somebody, and it was a little lady with a trolley full of tea and biscuits and whatever. And she
Yeah.
said, "Would you like a cup of tea? Would you like any breakfast?" And instantly I said, "Oh yes, can I have a?" And then I realised I've got it back. My speech is back. So
Oh, okay. So it
and
was
it
at
kind
that
of came
point, right?
and it kind of came back like pretty alright. I mean, I think over the next few days, all these people came and sat at the end of my bed, speech therapists and whatever. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of them kind of came in and thought, well, I'm wasting my time with this guy because he doesn't need any help. So
I mean,
that was
we've
fine.
got to take our hats off to the people that sort of helped us get to where we are now, really, because like we were saying there, if you don't get the treatment at the start, then
Yeah,
these
absolutely.
things like I used like just going on to talk there, like I used to get the fear of like if I went to the countryside, like I'd be scared something might happen because
Yeah,
I know
no,
I'm
yeah,
not going to get the treatment. So
yeah,
it's not only the time that the stroke happens, it's actually the aftermath as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And even now, like for example, I was just going to tell you about some of the symptoms that I went through. That like after the stroke, like once I was hospitalized for a week and then left the hospital, and then but when I was back at home, I almost used a bit of a distraction method. I think I had Prison Break on at the time. Like I watched all the series, but I know sleep is key for when you have a stroke, so I knew I needed my sleep. But I always had that fear that it could happen again. I
Yeah.
had to keep the door open on a night. I was scared. I was anxious. I kind of hid myself from life for a while, even though I was still going to the gym. I was keeping a quiet, low profile, and I didn't really want to speak to friends really because I was like, what if they notice something that I'm feeling that, even though, you know, it was more of a self worry rather than what they might see, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, I get that.
Which was a bit of a weird thing to come across because I'd never experienced anything like it. Like I've always been quite an outgoing sort, like you know I'm here. Do you know what I mean? But I actually, and then I had to get people walk me up to the village, and it was kind of like that frustration. You're feeling a bit demoralized, and I think with stroke that we see this very often, and like you say, it normally happens to the older generation, but now strokes are more common amongst young people,
No,
more
absolutely.
so than ever.
Absolutely, and again, I mean, it's
I
interesting to
mean,
see
we were
what you
young.
said. Well, yeah, I mean, I thought I was young, but then, I meet people like you when it's happened, and it's happened to you a lot. You were a lot. What were you, 20,
26, yeah,
26?
26. I was
Absolutely like.
literally the fittest I've ever been as well. So
I mean, that is bad luck. But I mean, you look at you now, and certainly, you 100% mentally and
yeah,
physically
like
in good
I
shape,
mean,
obviously.
I go on to I coach kids now with the football. I coach online with the football. I'm very frontal in what I do. I don't hide
Yeah,
myself away from people.
yeah,
I've got a good group of friends, loyal friends that stick by me, and I know who's who, and I think, just touching on the support thing, um, it's not only hard for yourself, but your friends don't really know how to deal with they hear stroke, they know it's a bad thing, they're like they sort of hold themselves back because they don't want to engage because they don't really know what's going on. Did
well,
you feel that as well?
yeah, I think so. Yeah, a little bit. But I remember having so because well because of this what I'm trying to do with Stroke Health Fitness, which
Yeah.
I've kind of not really done anything, but I know that you and I are kind of like-minded, and we think that we can
Yeah. 100%.
help other people. But I remember when it first, well, a few years after it happened, and I thought, well, what I might do is kind of, because I got this idea of a stroke, help people, and I didn't really know where to start, but I reached out to the Stroke Association,
Yes.
and I got chatting to this like local kind of manager for this area,
Yeah.
a lady called Rachel, and I will reach out to her again at some point, to see whether we can help each other, if you like, but and also
100%.
help stroke survivors. But I remember saying to her, talking to her about a kind of stroke, and I remember her saying to me, the problem with stroke is as an illness, it's not a disease, is it? It's like as a
No, like yeah, it's an illness, isn't it? It'd be
yeah.
more classified as that.
She says the problem with stroke is he's kind of, and I remember she pretty much used these words. She said it's not very sexy, and
Hmm.
I said, well, yeah,
Well,
probably
not
not the
really.
best choice of words, but I know what
Yeah,
she means because, for example, it has got like an old people connotation.
it
Um,
has 100%.
I mean, my granddad, R.I.P. He had a stroke, but he was in
Hmm.
his what was he like late 80s, so he had
Yeah,
he was expected at that kind of age. But of all the, she told me, and I don't know how accurate her figures are, but I think she said something along the lines of stroke is like in terms of kind of like money raised, for charity.
yeah,
It's quite low down. It's miles behind cancer. It's miles behind heart,
yeah,
whatever. It's
yeah,
miles behind
yeah.
whatever. He's kind of quite low, and and I do think it's got. Well, I mean, we're not selling Coca-Cola, but it has got like a bit of an image problem. Do you know what I mean? And that's a strange thing to like say,
No, I
but
know what you're saying.
it's kind of like it's not really in the public psyche, if you like, and it is a bit associated with old people. But what I'm realizing is, and what you're realizing is, since kind of it's happened to us, you're realizing that there's a whole lot of people of working age and
Yeah.
younger
Oh,
that
yeah.
that have had it, and that have been really affected by it, because you and I, with the greatest respect, we've been all right. I mean, we've not been all right, but we have been
Yeah.
all right. We're unlucky to
Yeah.
have it, but lucky. Well, I always look at it that I was very unlucky for it to happen to me, because I don't do the things that give people strokes. I don't smoke. I don't.
Yeah. Like
Uh,
me.
yeah, I don't drink ridiculous amounts. I don't eat like kebabs every night and
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
all this
You
kind
look
of
after
stuff.
yourself.
Yeah, look after myself. And then if you look at like if you go on NHS, and it'll say things like, well, yeah, don't have a stroke. If you don't want a stroke,
Yeah.
then stop eating.
Stop eating X, Y, and Z, and you're looking at it like, hang on, that's not me.
cigarettes.
That's not me. This is not me. And you're like, hang on, why has it happened to me?
Yeah.
But like I
You've been
say,
really blurry, by the way, Dean.
have I? I'm all
Yeah.
right. It looks all right on
You see
my
me?
end. Yeah, I can see. I can see you fine. Yeah.
All right. It may well for those thousands and millions of viewers who are going to watch this. If Dean
Maybe.
does kind of, yeah, we'll
But yeah, we'll work with it.
be better for next time.
So yeah, I was just gonna go on to say like the main issue for me, like sorry, let's just go on to talk about need to read one line of a newspaper, and then I'd need a 3 hour nap. Let's go on to talk about fatigue, because I know you'd experienced fatigue, and I feel like that's one of the most frustratingest parts of having a stroke, because you're wanting to try and recover quickly, but you don't want to do too much as well, also to send you that fatigue that you can't do anything else for the rest of the day. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't really, other than the first week, I didn't really kind of suffer from it. So, I mean, to be honest with you, I've like never really had it. But today, for some bizarre reason, I feel
Mm.
really fatigued. But I'm putting that down to like a bit of a heavy-ish week and a big walk as well. But I've not
Yeah,
really suffered
100%.
from it. And I mean, on the first few days after I got out of hospital, I kind of remember going up to like, just pottering around with the garden centre just to get some fresh air with my wife, mum and dad, and all that kind of stuff. And I
Yeah,
remember like, I can't walk back to the car. I ain't got,
yeah,
I ain't got the energy to walk, kind of. But other than that, I've been fine. But I mean, you've obviously experienced more of an issue with it than I have.
Yeah, I think the thing is that like let's go on to talk about. Obviously, we get a lot of speech therapists, language therapists. You know, you're coming in, but you're wanting to try and absorb what's just happened to you. But then you're wanting to get better, but you don't want to do too much. But then you're getting bombarded with speech therapists, language therapists, you know, everything. So without having time to really reflect on what's just happened to you, did you
Yeah.
experience that as well?
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of like they were kind of busting at one point. They were kind of like
Yeah,
I mean the speech therapists, but I mean I said earlier on though that like I think a lot of them kind of came round and thought well they knocked at the door and said oh I've come for the guy that's had the stroke.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I'm like, hello, who are you? Oh,
yeah,
yeah, for the guy that's had a stroke. Is it your dad or something? No, no, it's me. All right, so then they come in and they think, and I'm like talking to them normally, and then like, she's a speech therapist and she's thinking, I'm wasting my time here. So, yeah,
yeah, yeah. I saw that a little bit. Like
I'll sign
it
you
was
up.
like, for example, it'd be like, what is that? And it'd be like, you know, it's a cat, and you're like, they know you know that you know it's a cat,
Yeah.
and it's like, and they're thinking, what am I doing here? And you're like in your mind, what are you doing here? But then you can't say
They had to do
anything.
it. I mean,
'Cause
that's
it's all
it, kind of. But I remember that, yeah, all like little booklets, and it was a bit like kind of because she was like, what's this, a cat, and I'm like,
yeah,
is this like for real or what? I mean, do you
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. I know
Do you know what I
that.
mean? But I get that. But it was a problem for me. But I also remember like when um like
Could
the
you spell, Neil? Could you
yeah
spell?
yeah.
Could you? I couldn't spell.
Oh no, yeah. I mean,
I really
I'm not very.
struggled. I couldn't write my name, and I'm like, I
Oh
wrote
really?
it, and I'm like, I can see that's completely wrong, and I'm like, in my mind, I'm going, how do I change that?
Wow. Well,
And I
I
didn't
was.
have a clue. I didn't know how to change it, but over time, when your brain starts to develop these new pathways, I
Yeah.
started to get the hang of it. Like, for example, I just off that subject, I used to have like there would be like a jug of water, and rather than pouring the water into the jug, I'd try and drink from the jug because it was easier. So it was all these little things that I was like, why am I doing this? Why? And
Yeah.
that builds up more frustration, and then you're like, oh, and then you start to get annoyed by yourself. But the thing is, you can't let yourself get annoyed at the little things
No.
because these are going to help you long term, like the Lumosity app, and you know, just getting to the point where you can read more than 3 lines of a newspaper. Like these are little goals, and that's what we have to do to see the bigger goal further
Yeah.
down the line. That's what
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I'm sure.
experienced.
Yeah. I mean, I think you probably had it worse than me. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you
I
went
don't
about
know.
spelling your name. No, I think so. Certainly in some respects, because that wasn't really an issue for me. But I do
My
remember.
speech came back quite quickly though.
Yeah, but I do remember like when my the neurologist came round and she said I've got a scan of your brain. Like we did an MRI scan or a CT
Yeah,
scan,
I had that
like
as
a
well.
picture, yeah. And so it's like a classic image of a brain
Was it
X-ray.
lighting up like a Christmas tree?
Pretty much, yeah. But then so it was all like kind of white and everything, apart from like this
Yeah,
kind of decent sized kind of shadow bit.
yeah, I had that.
And I said to her, like, what's that? She said, well, that's where you had your stroke. And it was like a decent. I mean, I've not seen
The,
the picture since.
they're quite big, aren't they?
Oh
They
yeah,
normally
yeah.
do another scan further down the line. I think I had one about a year ago, and it was a lot smaller. It was like
Oh,
literally, it
it's
was
got a bit smaller,
minuscule,
right? But she
but at the
said,
time, it was massive.
yeah. She said, I said to her, I said, well, that's a bit of a worry, you know. She said, no, no, no. She said, I said, well, like that bit there in my brain, that whatever that did, I can't remember what
Yeah.
it did. I
Was
said,
it
well, just a
speech,
speech, yeah.
language? It could be
I said,
anything.
but like, won't that then affect me in some way, shape, or form? And she said, well,
You've got to be
yes,
careful
but
what they
what?
say.
Yeah. But what will happen is you kind of your neurons or transmitters will kind of work around it. So in
Yeah,
effect, like someone plonked there's an Arctic lorry's shed its load, but you kind of work, you go on the diversion if you like. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So it's that kind of thing. So your brain, and I've not got any issues that I'm aware of. I mean, I seem to be speaking. Although when I listen back to my voice, I think, Christ, do I sound like that? Am I so broad Yorkshire? But there you go.
yeah. I don't think anything in terms of my speech really changed apart from developing a bit of anxiety when I'd fluff a word, really.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Uh,
Like, go on.
no, yeah, I think so. Well, no, I did, but I don't anymore. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? So it's kind of it was a thing back, you know,
yeah.
7, 8 years ago, but not anymore.
And do you think about things still now, or is that sort of subsided? Even, you know, this all these years later, and like, you know, obviously, I think you've got a few businesses that you run. You know, there's probably a lot of stress with that.
Yeah. No, I think there's always that kind of anxiety. There's always that in the back of your head. It could happen again.
Mm,
You know, the classic example in my case is when you go to bed and you kind of wake up and you like start talking to yourself, not because you're kind of going mad, but because you just want to kind of clarify that you can still talk. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I tell you what I get as well. Sometimes when I'm in the gym,
yeah,
and I put my earphones on, so then you're like in your own little world, and
yeah,
then also I'll do all that, and then something will kind of there might be because it's TV on. There might be like an advert for something on the TV for
yeah, yeah,
milk or whatever. I think, oh God, I've not checked up on myself whether I can kind of, speak anymore. So then I will, kind of take them out and just try and start speaking, start talking again, just to kind of
yeah.
check that I can still do that.
To check you're still all there. Yeah, I
Yeah,
used to
exactly. Yeah,
when I first had the stroke, I was always like, right. As soon as it happened, like I couldn't speak. But then as soon as that first word came out, I was like, I'm going to speak 100 times, blah, 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 just talking about anything and everything. I'm like,
yeah,
just speak as much as possible to see if it'll help me recover quick.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
So yeah, but you kind of learn to adapt, don't you?
yes. I mean, you've got to. It's tricky, you know. You're trying to come to terms with everything, and this is something that has been said a lot. But then you're trying to process everything that's happened, and then you're trying to, you know, get yourself in a position where you can do things that you used to be able to do regularly without feeling the fatigue that you feel.
Yeah,
That's what I always experienced, and that's how I always felt. And I just felt like the more I was like, I suppose you need a bit of a competitive mindset. You can't get frustrated with little things. You've got to set yourself minimal goals to look to the long term goal. That's how I sort of did it. And I was like, if I can just stop doing this, like, you know, like I said about the jug thing, and if I can start doing this where I can read 5 lines of a newspaper, you know, and then start to sort of develop some sort of momentum with it,
yeah.
that in long term, in 12 months, that should just be, what's the word? Sort of like easy to do and not even thought of.
Yeah, it's just like then, like kind of back to normal, back to normal.
Back to normal, yeah, but obviously, as you know, as I know with a stroke, not everything is as straightforward as that. You know, you're hitting little bumps in the road where, you know, and like for me, I used to have someone walk me up to the village.
Yeah.
As stupid as it sounds, like you look at me now and like you look fit, young,
How do
healthy
you
guy.
feel? How do you feel now then? Like if you were like out of 10, if you like.
Out of 10, probably a 9 or a 10. Like I don't really feel any anxiety. I don't really feel any worries. Um, I used to get a left weakness of the arm, which I no longer experience. So, and that caused me a lot of anxiety because I was like, oh, is it going to happen again? I feel in the arm. It's on that left side. You know, that's when the anxiety builds, and you're almost like overthinking things, right? And that's when you start to check yourself. You're like, oh, is my face dropped? Am I twitching at the mouth? You
Yeah.
know, but that's all sort of gone, and I've been relieved of all those symptoms, and now like I've gone on and, you know, I'm doing things as before that I've never thought I could do. Like the stroke consultant has always said, like, you know, just be careful that the weight that you're lifting, don't overdo it. Don't get to this grunting phase because of the
Yeah.
hole in the heart that could push something through the other side. I was told to watch out on burpees and things like that, to be careful, like don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I feel like now I've got to a point where I could do pretty much everything as normal. Like I don't get anxiety doing any deadlifts, I don't get anxiety doing burpees. I do all the hit classes like
Yeah.
you, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I've got to a point now where it's like, you know what, I've come through the back of this. It has took me a long time, but I feel like now I'm at a level where I think once you're fit, you can put your mind to anything.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think so. Yeah,
it's really in the back of my mind now, where I don't really think about it at all.
yeah.
What do you think about that? Do you think you're
No,
back to a level where you feel like,
yeah, I think so. I mean, apart from this AFib,
yeah,
which is a bit annoying, but I mean,
yeah,
I mean, we'll have a, I think we'll have a good PFO
yeah,
discussion next time because I know it's kind of freaking you out a little bit. The thought of,
yeah,
but then, you know, I don't think our health matters because obviously you and I have talked before
yeah,
about this and about my operation and what it's given me. Now, I think the chances of it giving it to you, if it's already given it to me and you took me and you were talking, I think are extremely kind of slim. But there's another guy that I
yeah,
speak, and you know, I want to, you know, was had a stroke and I kind of known him, and he had slightly off kilter a little bit, but he had AFib, and then he had an
mm,
operation to what they call an ablation to kind of fix the AFib, to in effect kind of shock the heart back into normal rhythm. But by
right.
doing that, that gave him a stroke. So it's
Oh, okay.
like you know, for
Yeah.
God's sake,
So
you know what I mean? So it's kind
there's
of
all
like,
these little things.
yeah. The thing is that sometimes the cure, the problems, the potential problems from a cure are sometimes as bad, if not
Yeah,
worse, than the
yeah.
actual. Do you know what I mean? Which is a bit frustrating. And then I'm not a betting man, but sometimes you look at some of these odds and you think, oh, I'm not, you know,
You're
one
not
in
sure.
yeah, one
Yeah,
in 100 is kind of like if it was like 1 in 100, I've got a chance of winning the Euro Millions kind of thing. Then I'd be buying a ticket. But then if it's 1 in 100 chance of you having a stroke, you think, oh God, I'm not sure about them odds. They're a bit too,
yeah.
they're a
I
bit
think
too scary. Do you know what I mean?
I think you're always you play on the side of caution now. Well, I do anyway. I'm always like for me, like in the gym, I used to be hitting 3 sessions, 4 sessions, whatever, slamming everything. I was one of those, Neil, that didn't really hold back
Yeah,
as a kid. But once you
yeah,
go through an experience like having the stroke, sometimes you got to accept what's happened and be like, yes, you can do everything as normal, but just play a bit sensible with it. Just be
yeah.
mindful,
I
and
agree. I
that's
mean,
fine, and we can accept that.
yeah, I mean, I wish I kind of had your mindset because sometimes I do kind of smash it a bit too much in the gym. But
Me
I'm
too.
not that. I'm not that bad because, like, you know, I do try and avoid lifting anything too heavy. But it always
Yeah,
makes me laugh when you see guys in the gym and they're not fit guys and they're lifting like and they're not even warming up and they kind of going for a giant 50 kilogram dumbbell. I'm
yeah.
thinking, whoa man, whoa, just get on a 16 first and kind of
Yeah, feel your way through it. Yeah,
that's
like
what I do.
for me now, like I remember, it's funny because my stroke consultant actually saw me in the gym, and I was actually doing a bit of boxing training, and I was hammering the bag, like I saw you doing the other day. I'm hammering the
Yeah,
bag like bam, 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 and he was, and like I saw him next time. I was literally just walking down the river in York, and he was like, "You're the fittest stroke patient I've ever had. Like you just like what you were doing with that bag." He was
yeah,
like, and but like that to me meant absolutely nothing.
yeah,
Like I just was like, that
yeah. But
was just
you
how I
take it
normally
though.
am.
You'd take it though, wouldn't you? You take that.
I was taking it, yeah.
Yeah, I was taking.
But
Yeah,
it
yeah.
gave me a bit of confidence, you know what I mean? To say,
No, you
look,
need it.
you were all
You need it.
right.
But I think what I like to do as well is like kind of prove people wrong in a way. Because I think
Yeah,
again we can talk about this in future episodes. But I think what I'd like. I think there's a lot of people in our position that I know through like
100%.
their Facebook posts, whatever, and quite
Yeah,
defeatist. And like I remember putting a picture of me on one of my stroke or fitness, and someone commented saying something like, "Yeah, but you've never had a stroke, or it
oh
can't have been
really?
or it can't have been a very bad stroke." And that's fine, and I get why they're saying that. I understand that, and in a way, it's a bit of a compliment. But in another way, it's like, mate, listen,
You don't
there's nothing.
understand.
Just don't hold yourself back. You don't have to be, you know, 16, 20 stone and kind
Yeah,
of totally out of shape. That's not you and I are not examples of um, we no, we're all examples of stroke is what I'm saying. So yeah,
yeah,
anybody can have one regardless of your fitness, and you can always try and make yourself. And one thing that I have made a point of doing is I mean I was always kind of relatively fit before.
yeah.
I had a spell when the kids were little where I kind of lost, I looked a little bit, out of shape, whatever, because you spend too much time. But what I've always made a point of doing is because it's happened, is to try and maintain and even be a higher level of fitness than you perhaps would have done
hundred
because it's
percent.
happened just to kind of and I think
Peak,
perhaps if it hadn't
peaking
have
heights.
happened then I wouldn't have necessarily gone and pushed myself as much as I have done.
Yeah, and this is that stigma again, isn't it? That you probably experience yourself when you're out and about, and people look at you and they're like, I don't know, they're like, "Hmm, they sort of hear it all the time, but like you might say, "Oh, you don't look like you've had a stroke."
Oh yeah,
How
yeah,
many times have you heard that? And it's
oh,
like they all think that you've got this. You're going to be like handicapped. You can't
yeah,
do anything. And
yeah,
the amount of times I've had that, I'm like, and they look at me like they're almost like checking me out. They're like, "Hang on a
yeah,
minute,
yeah, yeah. Looking for your
where's
blue
your
badge.
stroke then?"
Yeah, I
But
mean, I
they
don't
don't
have
know
a blue.
what goes on up here.
No, no, and I don't have a blue badge, but and you know
I
whatever.
don't.
We don't need, but the you know I've seen kind of like videos of people that have a blue badge and deserve a blue badge, and then
Yeah,
people like saying, "Well, hang on a minute, you can't park there," kind of thing. So I think people have kind of, I think people want you to look kind of disabled, so it wound me up a little bit when
sounds
people.
awful, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I might be wrong there, but I think it kind of like people say, yeah, but you've not had a proper stroke. That's that. Or you must have just had a TIA, and that's fine. And in a way, it's
Yeah,
a bit
the
flattering.
TIA one's a big thing.
Yeah, but in a
I
way, it
get
might be a bit flattering. But in another way, it's like, well, hang on, look, let's try and get you fit. Let's try and get you, you know,
yeah,
feeling better. Let's try and get you if we can. But some people, look, we're you and I are lucky, and there's a lot of people that
yeah,
aren't
yeah.
nowhere near as lucky as what we've been.
But if we can share that experience where, that some of this helps and there'll be people in these hospital beds now that are, they're sat there, they're twiddling their thumbs, they're like, how do I get myself better? If one thing they can take away from it, and I'll just share my experience quickly, I
Yeah,
think the Lumosity app was one of the game changers for me. Doing these memory games, concentration, like my concentration's always been a little bit off. Um, but like anything that's sort of, gonna challenge that brain, but doesn't take you to the level of fatigue where you can't do anything. I also think like hand grips. I did a lot of that,
yeah,
to strengthen these forearms that when I had the stroke on this left side. And I'm sure you've done something similar, squeezing a ball in your hand. Um, I felt like this was like, and there'll be people there now, like not knowing what to do, and they're probably sat in the beds and like waiting for the therapist to come round. And I think just doing some of these little things can really mount up to the big picture of I am going to get better. It's almost like a mentality as well.
yeah, yeah.
Even for the older people as well, you can get better from this,
You
and
can,
that's
you
one thing
can.
I want to
I
stress.
think, yeah, I think we should. Well, should we cover that and should we kind of call it a
100%.
day?
Yeah,
And
perfect.
so
I
it's
think
good to chat, and then we'll hopefully upload this, and hopefully people will see it, and hopefully we'll do another one and another one and
that'd be
another
great.
one. So what I'll do is I'll press stop now, and if you remember that, I don't know if you can see it, but just
Yeah, I can see it. 87. Yeah,
yeah,
I'll leave it on.
don't kind of turn it off until that's up to 100%.
I won't.
All right,
Okay,
mate.
Neil.
Nice to
Great
speak to
to
you.
chat.
I'll see
Look
you.
after
See you later,
yourself.
mate.
Bye, mate. Bye-bye. Bye.